Hello, thank you so much for joining me for Tune In Tuesday. My name is Sharon Rogers and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Wells, Maine in the United States. Every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, I bring you a free online class. Now this class might feature a suite or a product, it might feature a technique or fun fold. It might even feature all of the above. Tonight, I am featuring several techniques, a fun fold, but mostly I'm focusing on the Layered Florals 3D embossing folder by Stampin' Up. This is such a beautiful folder and you're gonna love the projects I have for you tonight. Let's get started. For this first card, we're going to just put our piece of Starry Sky, which is an outgoing in color, into our folder. You can place it however you'd like it. I think I want this nice big flower kind of prominent there, but I don't want it too low. There we go. And we're going to run it through our machine. Base plate, folded edge first, and then top number 4 plate. Oops, wrong. I got something in there that doesn't belong in there, I think. Yep, number 2 plate, sorry. Just the base, then the embossing folder, then the number 4. So if it's going really, really hard, don't force it. Figure out what's wrong instead. Now I'm going to do 2 things that are similar. So I'm going to set that aside and I'm going to do another one. Do the same thing. Just line it in there and put it through. Rather than have to get this out and take it down, put it up, take it down, put it up. I'll show you 2 different looks. Okay. So that gives a really, really nice deep impression. Not sure if you can see that. But one of the things that you can do to bring out that impression is to add a little bit of ink. I'm going to take my Starry Sky ink pad and I'm going to take my blending brush that's kind of been designated for blue and ink it up in there. Let's see, I have a piece of scrap somewhere. Just get off that first little look here. And then I'm just going to rub this over. And what that does is it catches the edges of all those impressions. And just makes them that much more noticeable. And I'm going to show you a comparison. All right, a little bit more maybe. Okay, there we go. So here is one, the one I first did, and here it is with the ink. See how much prettier this one is? It really lets that folder speak for itself. Now, so I did that with the blue. But what I can do is I can get my white craft ink. So the white ink is a pigment ink, and this is a really old pad. One of these days I'll get a new one. Let's go ahead and bring in a piece of paper just to protect my surface. And I'm going to lightly skim this over. So I'm not pressing really hard. I don't want to put the pigment ink on my brush. I think it'll be too hard to come out or to clean it. But look at this. Isn't this pretty? And I would either let that dry for a second, or because it's pigment, it takes a little bit longer, or just hit it with a heat gun. This will just dry that white ink. So here's just another way to make that come right out and looks spectacular. Really brings out the beauty of the folder. Now all you have to do is take a card base, same color, and we can either just do this or we can layer it on a piece of white. Let's cut it just a little bit bigger and see now, look at just how striking that is. All we need is a sentiment. So let's put this together. And I like glue for this just because I can put a little bit more all over everywhere and it'll settle into the places it needs to settle into. I want to make sure that it's stuck down everywhere nicely. And I could go ahead and put this up. I think I will, but let's go ahead and grab some embellishments. So this elegant trim, and I'm out of the gold, but I still have some silver left. I've gone through 2 packages of gold and silver. Well, I've gone through 2 of the golds, and so I'm left with one little bit of the silver. My Christmas cards this year were mostly gold. Oh, all right, hold on. They didn't want to stay on. So I'm going to wrap this around a couple times. And you can go ahead and tie a bow. All right. I'm going to play with this a little bit once I've got my bow tied. All right. Let's cut my ends here. Now this has been spooled up, so it will need a little bit of time to relax. You can take a little bit of water and just kind of work the ends a little bit, moistening it. I got my little spritzer here. I can just spritz some water into my hand, or you can lick your hands, your fingers. By the time your card gets to somebody, the germs are going to be off it. I used my spritzer though. No hate mail. Okay, let's go ahead and put these pieces out a little bit from each other just to give it a little bit more interest. And we're gonna need a saying here. Sentiment. And these ends are too long. I trim them just a little bit. This can go up on a dimensional now. I don't think you can hear it, but it sounds like it's raining outside, but it's not. It's just snow melting and dripping off the roof. Look how pretty this is. Look how pretty. All right, now what are we going to do for a sentiment? Let's do nothing fancy, but just love. This would be great for a wedding, I think. There's nothing fancy, just love. This one right here. Get a block. Now, what die am I going to use with this? Can I do, let me see if I can do that one. this is a monochromatic card. It's just one color. Oh yeah, this will work. So let me go ahead and die cut that. Just put a little bit of washi tape over here to hold it in the center. Hold it how I've got it lined up, or how I had it lined up anyways. Okay. Bring in my machine. Die cutting this time. So we need plate 1. We need the number 2 plate. We need a 3. We need what we're cutting. And whoops, not that. We need another number 3 plate. Just carefully peeling this tape off so I don't hurt a little piece of paper. And let's bring our card back in. Let's see. And oh yeah, all right, I need to make these ends a little bit smaller, I think. Cut them down just a little bit more. And add it to the card with dimensionals. Just going to put a couple on here. All right, I'm going to slide my bow over just a little bit. I think I can. Yeah. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Put that right there. Nothing fancy, just love. Now the question is, what do you do when, you know, I don't have a stamp? I can bring out a floral stamp set. You know, I've got probably a punch or two that looks like this flower. I might have other flowers like that in another stamp set. Or we can, let me just cut this and show you. I'm going to cut it to 5 by 3 3/4. And I'm going to show you how to emboss just the edge. So we're going to just make this pretty on the inside as well. Bring our folder back in. And I just want it on the edge here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up with this little line that's down here. About 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 inch, I'd say. Let's bring our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine back in. And I'm going to bring my number 1 plate in. And this is going to go in. I've just moved it, so I want to make sure I put this back in. And then I'm going to put this other plate on top, but I'm only going to line it up with the bottom of that embossing plate. And so now you can see you just have a little bit of embossing on the edge to make it pretty. You do want to be, you know, you'll have to arrange it on the inside of your card. So if like the image is, you know, right side up, so I think it has to go on the left here to be correct. But that's a little bit something different than we normally do on the inside. And I think it's totally appropriate for a wedding card. There you go. Now, in that Something Fancy stamp set, was there a sentiment for the inside? Let's see. Here's to beautiful beginnings and happily ever afters. I think I'll bring that one in. And we are definitely going to get that ink pad that just dropped. And let's go ahead and stamp this nice saying on the inside. There we go. Card number 1, easy peasy. Here's that first piece that we had. Let's go ahead and bring in a piece of basic white that's just a scrap. And we'll bring in that ink pad again. We'll use the same sentiment. Make another wedding card. Pretty much the same. I'm going to leave the elegant trim off this time, just because we'll give it a little bit different look, I guess. Bring in our machine. Die cutting again. So we need the number 2 plate. And then we need a number 3 plate. And another number 3 plate. Go ahead and get our, this one would also look, I wonder if I have a different sentiment that I could use. I do. You know what? I'm going to use a different sentiment. I've changed my mind. I'm going to go less color on this and less embellishments. And I'm going to bring in with deepest sympathy. And let's go ahead and use a different die. With deepest sympathy right there. I unfortunately recently had to make 4 sympathy cards. I had an aunt pass away. And so my 3 cousins and my uncle received sympathy cards. This is the family I was closest to of all my relatives growing up. One of my cousins was the same age as my twin sister and I, and the other 2 were pretty close in age, and they lived about 1.5 miles from us. We all went to the same school, up through the 8th grade anyways. Part of my 9th grade year. This aunt was just a wonderful woman, very sweet. She was the kind of person that really listened to you and really loved people and loved helping others. And she made the best peanut butter sandwiches when I was in grade school. So she worked in the school cafeteria, it was a one-woman show. And because it was a very small grade school, grades 1 to 8, just 4 classrooms. And she would warm up the peanut butter so it was all melty, and then put that on the bread and then spread on some chopped peanuts. Oh, so good. Of course, couldn't do that now because of all the peanut allergies, but back then, it's not a problem. All right, again, we're going to just remove this carefully so we don't tear anything. We can reuse that tape. Let's see here. If I just put this color on color, and we put this on here just like that. The sympathy stands out. And it's just a pretty background. Ooh, I haven't glued this down yet. I probably should do that, shouldn't I? Let's do that first. And of course, you could do this with any color. Light of navy would look beautiful. Shaded spruce. Let's just put this, let's see, do we want to put it right there? I think right there. I don't typically put any bling on a card, a sympathy card. So let's bring in a piece of thick basic white. I'm not going to do anything to the inside of it except for write a sincere note to the person who will be receiving this. So there we have that simple card. This probably would have looked nice if it was just a full layer of this on the front of a card, or just slightly smaller. But I think having this flat edge kind of makes it look nice too. So let's compare. So we've got ink, dark ink, same color ink, and then we've got white ink. Two different looks, same technique. This next card, I sort of teased what we're going to be doing when I did something on the last card, but let's pretend you haven't seen that. I'm going to use perennial postage, and specifically the "You Are Loved Beyond Measure." Now it's a long sentiment. Get a long block for it. Bring in our embossing buddy. Make sure we get all the static and the moisture out of the cardstock, and try not to touch it, because the oils from your fingers can leave trace residue that the embossing powder will stick to. I'm going to ink this up in Versamark. I'm going to stamp it probably about a third of the way to the bottom. Hope that's straight. I'm going to pour on some white embossing powder. Again, you don't want to handle it anywhere near where you're going to be embossing, if you can help it. All right, that looks good. We don't seem to have any strays. Set that aside so I can put my powder back in the jar. And now we need to emboss this. Let's get our heat tool out. Let it warm up for just a second. I put my embossing tool away. All right. And Heat it until you see it turn bright like that and shiny. It'll get nice and smooth and shiny and bright. And then you are done. Now I like to unplug my embossing tool when I'm not using it, because of its heating element. It's certainly a hazard that you don't want to have around your house if you can help it. So you know, my cat could step on it and make it go off, who knows, and that would be bad for the house. So I like to keep it unplugged when not in use. All right, let's go ahead and bring in our number 1 plate and our number 4 plate, and of course our folder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to emboss and try to get it as straight as I can in there. All right, it looks like it's pretty straight. What I can do, if I'm really particular about things, I can kind of see if it's about this. Oh, it is about the same. Yep, so that's good. So I'm going to try to do this without moving it. Let's get that sandwich in there. And oops, wait a second. I want to make sure that this plate just goes only over that piece right there. And we'll run this through. Oops, not lined up. Hold on. Hold on. There we go. And so now we have that on the top. And what we can do is we can turn it around and do the same thing on the bottom. And this time it's probably a little bit easier for me to just look at this area right here and see if it's the same above that line in both instances. So it looks like 1 3/4. 1 3/4, that looks good. I'll line this up. There we go. And so now we have just this flat edge right in here where the "You Are Loved Beyond Measure" sticks out. Now what happens, I know some of you are wondering this, what happens if you put this part way in, part way off, and you put this over the whole thing? I don't know. Let's find out together. I've just always learned to line them up. First of all, you get that big on pop, but I don't know if you can see it here, but you get this crease mark. And so if you have this extending over the edge, it will be pressing down right here on this edge and give you that crease. So that is why you want to line them up when you're doing a partial emboss. All right, just as we did before, I don't have a clean brush. I've washed all mine. So I just ripped this paper because my chair's on it. I'm gonna get a lot of this off. And you can do a pretty good job of cleaning just by doing this. Got a lot of ink on this guy. more ink pads falling. Those are the ink colors. I've got them on a shelf, a window ledge, basically, so that I made room for my new colors. I'm just going to do what I did before to bring out the embossing. I'm going to go one way and then I'm going to go the other way. And I think you can see it just really does make a little bit of a difference. It's not a ton, but it's subtle, but it does make a difference. Here we go. Let's go ahead and bring a Tahitian tied base in, just like this. Do we need white? I think we need white, don't we? All right, which means I really should have cut this one down, but I don't need that. I can use a basic white card base. So we have something that looks like this. Now, if you want to add something here, it's probably a good idea. Bling it up a little bit. Okay, let's see, what do we have for some bling? I don't think I have any in color bling, so let's go ahead and use our standby Rhinestone Basics. And I have my take your pick tool here somewhere. There it is. And if you want, you could sprinkle them out all throughout over the card. You want to go crazy. I think I'll keep it just simple, calling attention to the sentiment. And you are loved beyond measure. Seems like doesn't need anything on the inside, but it could be, you mean the world to me. Thank you for your friendship. Here for you always. I know you will get through this. I would just stamp something that coordinates whenever I get in there. And you could do that partial embossing just on this edge if you wanted to. Hello, I hope you're enjoying the project so far. The best are yet to come, I promise. But I wanted to mention one thing. This class is free to view. However, if you would like to support my small business and receive the class kit that goes along with tonight's projects, allowing you to create one of each of the projects, then simply place an order of $35 or more in my online store. You can find the link below in the description of this video. If your order is $60 or more, in addition to the class kit, I will provide you with a package of rhinestone basic jewels. Let's face it, those things add beauty to any project. But in addition to that, I am going to give you a full-size sheet of cardstock of each of the new in colors debuting in the new annual catalog in May. And there's also another color that's debuting, Basic Beige, and you'll get a sheet of that as well. So again, the link is down below in the description of this video. Please remember to use the host code that is found in the description of this video. It is embedded into the link that's there. However, it is important that you verify when you are in my online store that host code is in effect. The host code simply allows me to know that you are asking for the class kit specifically for tonight's Tune In Tuesday class. All right, let's get back to our projects. You are going to love the 3 remaining ones I have. For this technique, you want to make sure you're protecting your surface because you're going to be laying some ink down with some blending brushes. I'm going to bring in a couple of blending brushes. I'm using greens and blues and purples because that's my favorite watery combination. And I think these look a lot like flowers you would see, like lily pad flowers. Do they have a special name? I don't know. I'm going to start with Coastal Cabana. Let's make sure all the greens are kind of off. Ink up. And I like to ink up on the edge. That's where the ink doesn't usually get pulled from. So there's usually plenty there. And let's just add some in different splotches randomly over the card. Randomly, but not randomly because I'm sort of spreading them out a little bit. Okay. Then I'm going to bring in a bluish. Let's bring in Azure Afternoon. And do the same thing. Ooh, that's bright. That's okay. I mean, it was brighter than I intended, but it's okay. Totally okay. Let's stop that right there for now. I'm going to bring in 2 retiring colors. Orchid Oasis. That's this purplish blue here. Get my blue off here. And, ooh, isn't that pretty? That's such a pretty color. It's one of my favorites. Kind of sad it's going away. I didn't use it nearly enough. Who knows? Maybe it'll come back in 5 years as a standard color. Because there is a major color refresh every 5 years. And I'm going to bring in Parakeet Party, which is another retiring in color. Oh, look at how bright and vibrant that is. Just put some over. It's okay if they overlap a little bit. Haven't chosen colors that are going to get really muddy together. All right, that's pretty good. So let's put our inks away. And we can put our blending brushes away. Actually, I think I'm going to wash those. And I just rinse them off in the sink really, really well and let them air dry. Now, before I emboss this, I'm going to break down the fibers a little bit so it doesn't crack. I'm going to bring in my spritzer and just lightly spritz the back. Now I'm going to bring in my folder, which is over here. And I'm going to pay attention to where the logo is. So this is the logo side. This is the side I'm going to be working on. I'm going to bring in, now I can use Memento Black if I want to. I could use Night of Navy. That would look nice with those colors. Or the Starry Sky would look nice as well. Let's go ahead and just use the Memento. That's what I've got out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to swipe this. And I'm trying not to get into the areas where there's a lot of space, but it's really hard to see until you've done it. So swiping it, I found, is the best option for you. And I want to make sure that I can see the outlines of the centers of these flowers when I'm inking it. So I am paying attention to that area. All right. Memento is water-based, so this is not going to stain. Do not use StazOn on your folder because it will stain. Take your piece that you've blended some color onto and close that up into the folder. Let's bring our embossing machine in. And we need plate number 1. Then we need to send the folded edge of our folder through first. And then plate number 4. Sorry, I'm shaking things a little bit. Let's see what we've got. Okay. So we do have a couple of dark areas in there. Don't let that worry you. It just kind of looks like, you know, deeper water, if you will. Now you can see I've got some ink on here. This is going to be very easy to clean up. I'm just going to run it under the tap. Voila, perfectly clean. Now I'm going to be doing some embossing. So I'm going to hit this with an embossing gun just for a second. Bend down and get it. Make sure that all the moisture is out of here, because the moisture will cause our embossing powder to stick where we might not want it. Such a pretty folder. Now I'm going to take one of my water brushes and just a little palette. You could just use a piece of plastic. You could use your blocks, your clear blocks if you wanted to. I'm just going to put a little bit of Versamark refill in there. Now, if you don't have a refill, you can just go ahead and use your Versamark pad. I'm gonna mix a little bit of water with this, just so I can paint with it a little bit better, but it's not going to be too dense. All right. And then I'm gonna go over just some of these areas of flowers just that are raised. And I'm just using the petals here. Not adding a ton of color to everything. Just in a couple spots. I find it's helpful if you kind of go around in order, because it's not always easy to see where you've done this, because it is a clear ink. I think I did this one. See what I mean? I already forgot. And let's see, I don't know if I did this one or not. I'll go ahead and go over it just in case I had not. Okay. I'm going to rinse this out in the sink afterwards. Let's get my embossing toolkit out. So you could have pounced your brush in here, I think, just repeatedly. Got the same effect. I'm going to pour my white embossing powder over this whole thing. See what it sticks to. And it's just sticking to wherever I had my pen. If you're finding that you've missed a spot, you can go back over it. Like down here, it looks like I'm missing. Oh, no, I missed stuff there on purpose because those were the leaves, not the flowers themselves. All right, I think that's good. Set that down while we pour our embossing powder back in. That's what I love about my toolkit. You can save all this. Powder really goes a long way when you don't spill it. Ask me how I know what happens when you spill it. All right, let's get our heat tool out again. Should be still kind of warm from drying off the paper originally. So it won't take very long. Let's go ahead and use my reverse tweezers here. And when you see it start to get bright and shiny, you move along. There it goes, getting bright. Now your heat tool is very, very hot, so make sure you're very careful. There is a cover on the end so that you don't touch the really hot spot. It's kind of like the light is dancing on these petals. All right, now, are you seeing a couple areas that I think I missed? I am. I'm going to come back in. Bring my toolkit back. I seem to have missed a couple of flowers. Let's see if I've got any embossing stuff left. I do. Add a little bit of water to it. There we go. So I need to paint. I think I'm going to add a little bit more here. I'm going to add to this flower. I'm going to add a little bit more to this flower. And I missed this flower completely. Let's add a little bit more here. I think that's good though. Just pour our powder over the spots that we missed. And let's see. I forgot what we missed, so we'll just pour it all over there. Okay. I'm going to set my powder out of the way just so I can see it. I might not be done with it, so get it out of the way so you don't burn anything. Oh, I had to add some more down there, didn't I? Oh, well. Now, this white over here is not showing up that much because it's on the green, I think. Probably same thing over here. Shows up a little bit more, but... All right. So the brush definitely makes it neater. I'm going to show you a sample of one I did a little bit earlier. Where I didn't use a brush, I used a sponge dauber. I don't like the sponge dauber method nearly as much. I don't have as much control. So you can see here, it just made for a lot more white instead of more highlights. Now, truth be told, I don't know, I probably would like something in between these two, but we're gonna call it good for now. So let's get a little mat going for this piece. We need a mat that measures 4 by 5 1/4. And we'll just adhere that down with some, well, let's see if I've got enough glue left in here. Want to make sure you've got the glue going all the way around the edge. Oh, I'm so close to being out, but I think I've got some. I don't think I've got enough though. So we'll open a new bottle. Just around the edge and a little bit in the middle. Now, if you're watching me for the first time, sometimes people are wondering what I'm doing with my glue. I have a green glue, one of these caps, hot glued into the base of a candle holder. And so that keeps my glue down towards the tip, so it's ready to use when I'm ready to use it. All right, so there we go. Now you just have to decide which side is up. I think that's the side I want up. All right, and I'm gonna put a little saying over here. Now, what color cardstock do we want to put it on? Let's try a couple. Here's Pool Party. Such a pretty color, right? I mean, it does look nice, but look at what happens when I put it on a base of Pool Party. Then the colors that are in here pop that much more. So that's what I'm gonna do. You know what? Let's see if I want something on here first. All right, let's go grab a sentiment. All right, I'm gonna take this Lost Lagoon ribbon. I'm gonna use a little piece of that. Before I do, I'm gonna get my Something Fancy sentiment out here, and we'll choose Thank You. That was thank you cards. And there are some coordinating dies here, and I'm gonna use this little tag right here. So the thank you will go in there. And I also, let's go ahead and use something to put the tag hole in. Bring our machine back in. This time we're not embossing, we're cutting. So we will need the number 1 plate. We'll need the number 2. We'll need a number 3 plate for the bottom. Time for me to break down and get some new ones, I think. Here's just a piece of scrap white. Cutting plate down. Remember, you don't want a flat edge going through your machine because it's kind of jarring. So I'm just gonna put this right up in there. You can use some washi tape or Post-it tape if you want. Run that through. We should have a tag with a hole in it. Okay, there we go. All we need to do is put these 2 away before I lose them. And we'll stamp a sentiment. Now, the question is, what color do I want for the sentiment? I think I'm going to use Pool Party. I think I'm going to use something soft, so as not to take away from the background. That's pretty soft, all right. It's all right. Probably could have used Lost Lagoon too. Lost Lagoon would have looked nice. Let's just take a piece of this. Make it flat, send it through, and then, there we go. And we'll just gently tug. You don't want to pull too hard because you'll tear that right off the top here. Here we go. Let's just cut these ends a little bit. This is gonna go right here. We'll have to embellish this, of course. Let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and put the tag on an angle. I guess we're not wrapping any ribbon around, so we can put this base on. this on with some dimensionals. Let's see. This looks like some leftover from either a paper pumpkin or one of the kits. Kit from the Kits collection. There we go. Now let's add some gems. We've got a bunch of different choices here. Let's see, we've got these. These look nice. These are nice and watery. They match nicely. We've got these blue ones, which are a little bit brighter. Let's see if I got any more. These ones will go great. These are the glossy dot assortment. So let's put one down here, and then we'll go with a smaller one right here, and then a smaller one right up there. And there's our card. Now we just need to do something on the inside. All right, I wasn't brave enough to do it on camera, but I restamped the thank you in Orchid Oasis, and I did a pretty good job. I knew I wasn't be perfect, but it looks like there's just a shadow now. So it doesn't look like I made a mistake. It looked like I sort of did that on purpose. And I do like the bolder color better. And that paired with these gems, it's a much nicer look. All right, now for the inside. Now this is a fairly light colored base, so we don't need to put a white layer on there. You can if you'd like to. But I took just one of these other pieces that I had done up, and I just cut them with my paper trimmer. Now you do want to make sure your blade is pretty sharp for this, and I did find that I was able to cut pretty nicely. Sometimes depending on the pattern, you can't really get a good cut, but this one I found I was able to get a pretty good cut. I'm just going to take this little sliver and run it down the edge here. And there we go. For this last card, we are going to be using the beloved Joseph's Coat technique. Now, there are several variations of this method, but we're going to do a pretty simple one. I'm going to gather a bunch of different colors, and I could use blending brushes for this, but I'm going to go ahead and use sponge daubers to show you that you can achieve great results this way as well. So I'm just going to ink it up and rub some ink on here. This is Highland Heather. Ooh, getting kind of dark there. And it's okay if you've got, you know, some parts that are lighter and some parts that are darker. There's Highland Heather. And I'm inspired to use the colors that are in the beautiful painted lavender, or sorry, perennial lavender designer series paper. This, by the way, is going away at the end of April, or while supplies last, whichever comes first. So if you love it as much as I do, grab it. It is also an item that those in my spring retreat are going to receive in their swag bag. And here's the gorgeous grape, which you can see looks just slightly different than the other Highland Heather. It's just a little bit different. You may not even be able to tell on camera. Let's go ahead over here. Okay, now I'm going to bring in, some Berry Burst. That's really nice and juicy. Let's bring in, okay. And then actually a little bit more down here. Then we'll bring in some Lost Lagoon. And I'm trying not to overlap too much. And when I'm pulling the ink, remember it's a good idea to pull from the edges, because that's where most of the ink is going to be anyways. Now you can make these shades paler if you want to. I'm going for really vibrant though. And here's some Pretty Peacock. And again, related to, but pretty close to Lost Lagoon. It's a little bit darker. All right. Now, instead of embossing, which means getting that raised look, I'm going to deboss on this one. You can do Joseph's Coat a number of different ways. I'm going to do this with debossing though, which means that instead of having the ink facing the Stampin' Up logo, I'm going to have it facing down from that. And this will give an impression. It'll sink those flowers into the cardstock. So we need a number 1 plate. And we need our number 4 plate. Don't forget, folded edge through first. And I don't know if you can tell, but it is debossed. Look at what happens when we take this next step, which is kind of like magic. By the way, because I was using ink on this, I will go ahead and rinse my embossing folder out before I put it away, because some of this ink was wet, and so I want to make sure that it does not come out. You know what? Instead of black, I'm going to use my Night of Navy, and I'm just going to down, up, down, up, down, up. And look at the prettiness that you get. This is going to be inky. You're going to want to let it dry. Let's see, one more right here, I think. So you can see some areas where maybe you need to touch, but look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, so pretty. All right, now that's very wet. Let's go ahead and hit it with our heat tool. All right, so pretty, so vibrant. Now we need to decide what color cardstock we're going to put this on. Let's pick out some of those colors and see which ones work best. All right, so I have my different pieces out. Purple, nice. Ooh, that's nice. I like the lighter color there. This is in the running. Nice, but again, I like that lighter Highland Heather, I think, first. Let's see. Oh, this is pretty too. The Lost Lagoon is pretty, but I still think I like that Highland Heather the best. One other color, the Berry Burst. Ooh, I kind of like that one too, but I am going to go with the Highland Heather. So I think the light nature of that really brings it out, makes the other colors just look that much more bold. Let's go ahead and cut a base for that. Oh yeah. And in fact, I could even make it go this way. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna have it be landscape. So we can go ahead and put that on there. We could mat it too if we wanted to, but honestly, I think less is gonna be more with this card. Ink all over my fingers. All right, now we just need something. Are we gonna put a little sentiment on with the purple? I have a bit of an idea here. Let's see if I can make it work. I've got a scrap of Highland Heather, and I've got a scrap of white. So let's see, this is Comforting Thoughts, which is an online exclusive. I don't have all the right words to say. Let's use that one. If I can find it, it's right here. I don't have all the right words to say. And where are my blocks? Let's go with this one. And let's go with let's go with the Highland Heather. All right, let's try this. Let's try this scrap right here. I will trim it down afterwards, but that looks straight. There we go. I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer. And let's cut this down a little bit. I think about there would look good. And let's go ahead with some angle cuts here. There's that, and I'm going to try to make the same angle on the other side. Gonna try. It'll be close enough. It's not close enough. That's better. Oh, you know what? I don't think I need this. What I was gonna do was put a little scrap underneath. See if I could treat this like a ribbon. Nope, I don't like it. I like it just with this. Just with this. And it's not really a very happy occasion if you have to say these words. So I am not going to put any bling on this. Just going to put this sentiment. I don't have all the right words to say, but I probably have some of the right words to say, and so I will do that on the inside. I have this layer, And how are we going to tie the outside to the inside? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to emboss this piece. Just the way I've done in the last couple. Except for I'm going to emboss it. Well, I can just flip it over if I want to deboss it, but remember, we're going to put this right up so it's even with the bottom of the embossing folder, so we don't get that harsh line. Whoops. There we go. Let's try this again. So debossed, embossed. Just a very simple way of tying the outside to the inside. And there you have it. All right, for this last card, we're going to bring in a piece of basic white cardstock, and I'm gonna put this wherever I think is suitable. Let's see. I don't know. I think I want this flower right up over there, so I'm gonna line that right up. Whoop, I'm gonna put it just so this flower is very prominent. There we go. And we will now emboss it. So normally I do 4 cards and send you 2 of each. But this time I'm gonna do 6 cards, and you'll get the supplies to make 1 of each. But what's interesting is that I am using just 1 embossing folder for all of these techniques. This is, in my opinion, an embossing folder that everybody should have. Okay, so here's the embossed side, the side that sticks up, and here's the debossed side. You're gonna see why I'm using such a small color in just a moment. We're gonna do something that looks like Joseph's coat, but we're gonna bring in some blends, and I'm bringing in some new blends. So these are a couple of the new in colors that are coming up with a new catalog in May. So Pretty in Pink, which is a returning color, by the way. And then there's Shy Shamrock, Petunia Pop. This right here is Peach Pie, and there's one more. This right here is Summer Splash. Okay, so let me go ahead and take care of that. I'm gonna bring in the light Peach Pie. I'm gonna use the bullet point. That's not the bullet point, that's the brush point. And on the debossed side, I'm going to color in this little dot in the center of this flower. So all these little 5-petaled flowers, I'm just going to color in that center dot. And you want to make sure that you color all the way, even on the side walls. So don't just color the ditch, but also the side. And even if you get it up a little bit higher, that's okay. Not going to be a problem, because we're going to be covering it up. This is kind of a Joseph's coat look that we're going to get. And let's see, there's one more here. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing. So in these flowers, you've got the pistil and stamen or whatever they are. I don't know what they are. You're going to color those in, and it's okay. It's going to overlap in here in a different section, but we're still just going to color those little lines. And then there's a little bit more right up here. And one more right here. Okay. Now I'm going to bring in the Pretty in Pink, and I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to color the petals of the lily pad flowers. I'm going to use the brush tip, but I'm going to be very careful. You know what? These are new markers. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the bullet tip. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to color in all these petals. And it's okay if these colors overlap a little bit. Again, you want to make sure that you're coloring right up to and including the wall, the inside wall. What you'll find is that we're going to be using that Joseph's coat technique, so you'll be getting the black area anyway that you want on those raised parts. So it's okay if you come up the wall and go over the wall, as it were. I'm going to fast forward so you don't have to watch all of this. Oop, I just colored a leaf. I'm going to pay attention. So the leaves have extra lines in them. I didn't pay attention there. Okay, I see I've missed one center here. And I'm using Shy Shamrock to color in the leaves. Okay, I've got a couple of white spots I just want to fill in here. I'm wondering if I should try to paint that green. Let's see what we get if we try to paint this green. Yeah, it's sort of green, so I'm going to go with it just because it is a leaf. Looks a little out of place as pink. Color the wall. There we go. All right, and I think there's a little bit of green over here and a little bit right there. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to protect our surface again. You can use a glass mat or you can use just a piece of scrap paper. I'm going to take my Memento this time. I used blue last time, Night of Navy. I'm going to take my Memento and I'm just going to rub it over again. And my Memento probably needs some inking, but I'm just going to go slow. And look at how this just pops. You do want to be a little bit careful where you stick your fingers because you're going to get them black. You don't want to press very hard because you'll get some of the black on the leaves there. You just really want it on what sticks up. So just take your time. Keep your pad flat. Spots here that I want to get. I don't want to ruin my flowers. Okay. That's pretty good. So it gives it a little bit of a distressed look here too, with the black in some of the places where you might not want it, but there's a nice shadowing effect. Again, a juicier ink pad works a little bit better, but the regular colors are a foam pad, and this is a fabric pad, so there's going to be a little bit of difference there as well. All right, let's go ahead and layer this onto a piece of basic black. You can see why I chose a small piece, right? Because coloring takes some time. It is a stunning look, though. All right, let's see. Got black fingers. All right. Now, I have a piece of Pretty in Pink cardstock, and that's going to go right on over here. Now, won't it be nice to have this dimension? So let's go ahead and bring in our folder again. And we're just going to emboss. Now this doesn't go right to the edge of this, so I do want to make sure that my fold is going to the bottom where that crease is. And on this one, it wouldn't matter if we actually had this plate all the way to the end, because we're gonna have a crease there anyway. It's the fold of the card. So now here we have this really pretty layer. And we're gonna attach which way we want it. Let's do this. And I'm gonna go ahead and grab some sticky strip, make sure that sticks really, really well. And let's see, I want that about halfway. I want to make sure that my adhesive doesn't go where it's not supposed to go. All right. Oh, where's my take your pick tool? That'll get it up better. There we go. Okay. And then we will put this piece right here. That covers up the piece inside. And so there we have a lovely little card. We just need a sentiment right here. I'm gonna take my Comforting Thoughts set again, and I've got the "We're Here for You" sentiment. I just need a tiny strip of cardstock. I'll make it 1/2 inch wide. Something like that. Probably could have gone even smaller than that. And let's go ahead and make this Shy Shamrock for the greeting. Black might be better, but angle cut this. And put that right there. Now, put this up on some dimensionals just to make that pop off the page a little bit. And there we go. There's our last card. Whew, that was a lot of projects. I don't usually do 6, but I just could not stop creating with this beautiful Layered Florals 3D embossing folder. Now I know I've mentioned several times in the video that this looks like a lily pad flower, and it still does to me, but it probably is a magnolia blossom. And we have, if you love magnolias, we have in our online exclusives, which you can also find in my online store, a suite of, or a product line of magnolias called Magnolia Mood. So check that out. Really beautiful flowers. I hope you've enjoyed tonight and felt it worth your time, whether you watched it in one chunk or you split it up over some time. Please join me again in 2 weeks for my next Tune In Tuesday. And in the meantime, I go live every Friday night at 7:30 with a Friday Night Live right here on my YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you're reminded of that. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you later.